The Toronto Raptors have been undoubtedly one of the biggest stories of the 2019-20 NBA season. They were in such a unique situation coming into the season as the defending champs, but without their best player from last year's team in Kawhi Leonard, but have still managed to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference behind a tenacious defensive attack led by a seemingly endless amount of rangy, athletic, and smart defenders in the offensive improvement of Pascal Siakam. However, no matter how their season ends up in the Orlando bubble, the Raptors will have plenty of decisions to make this offseason, as they have arguably the most important offseason decisions to make of any team in the NBA. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors offseason and where they go from here, even projecting this all the way out to the offseason of 2021. But really quickly, before the video gets started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. It's a great way to keep up with the channel, and leaving a like rating is also a great way to help out the video and let me know that you're enjoying the content. With that said, let's go and get started. Now, just to be clear as we start off this video, just because the Raptors have a lot of important decisions to make this offseason doesn't mean that they're in a bad spot in terms of their front office. In fact, they're in a really great position. They have a core of players that they really like, guys like Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Norman Powell, the list goes on. And then they've got all these complementary options around them as well, and what has proven to be one of the best development and drafting systems in the entire league over the last couple of seasons. However, the big decisions that need to be made this offseason relate to whether they want to continue to roll with this group and re-sign their players and sign their younger guys to extensions that they'll be eligible for this offseason, or go in a different direction and take some bigger swings in free agency this offseason as well as in 2021. But really what this all centers around from a ceiling standpoint for the Raptors is that summer of 2021. And we all know that this is supposed to be a crazy free agency class. Guys like LeBron, Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Victor Oladipo, Drew Holiday, the list goes on. And the Raptors are going to be in a good situation potentially to make some big moves in that offseason, but it all starts with this offseason. Because as of right now, when you look at the summer of 2021, or whenever the offseason is for the 2021 NBA season, the Raptors are projected to have just about $46 million in payroll, and almost all of that is Pascal Siakam and Norman Powell. They don't really have anybody else currently projected to be on the roster for that summer, so they got plenty of cap space, which is a great thing. But the problem is, as we get back to the 2020 offseason, that doesn't account for bringing back guys like Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, whole bunch of different guys, Terrence Davis, a whole bunch of different guys that are really important on this current roster that they're going to have to figure out what to do with and how much they want to spend. Because VanVleet, Gasol, and Ibaka are all 2020 free agents that have been huge parts of the team over the last couple of seasons. OG Anunoby and Terrence Davis are both eligible for extensions this offseason, and Kyle Lowry has a big expiring contract for next season and then will be a free agent in the summer of 2021. So a lot of big time players, and the main part of this Raptors team, their contracts are going to be running out within the next 18 months. And so really they're at this crossroads where they have to figure out, do they want to re-sign all of the guys that they currently have and continue this momentum that they've had over the last couple of seasons, or do they want to take a bit of a risk, not bring all of those guys back and potentially try and take a big swing in free agency in the summer of 2021? And obviously the big prize in the summer of 2021 with respect to all the guys that I mentioned earlier is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And there have been people trying to make connections between the Raptors and Giannis for over a year now. And it seems like the Raptors would be in a really good free agency position, whether it's for Giannis or otherwise, even though it's out of the United States, and that's probably out of the comfort zone of a lot of these domestic players in free agency in the summer of 2021. Toronto is a great city. They have all the cap space in the world. And as I said, they've kind of become one of the best organizations in all of basketball. So it's a great situation. However, as I keep saying, they have to figure out what they're going to do with the players currently on their roster. So let's go through them one by one. First up, the Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka thing isn't a huge deal to me. Obviously, those guys have been a big part of the team, but they're definitely getting older, and you want to make sure you're not overpaying guys like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of them really want to return to Toronto because of the success that they've had there and would be willing to come back on a relatively cheap one-year deal. I don't think they are a huge part of the calculation here as you're looking towards making sure you have plenty of cap space in the summer of 2021. But the biggest and the most interesting guy here for me as it relates to this offseason is Fred VanVleet. And he made $9 million this past season, or this current season, I guess, and will be a free agent this offseason. And the 2020 free agency class is already kind of a weird and crazy one, as I've talked about in previous videos, because we don't really know where the salary cap is going to be at this point. But if we're just going based off of everything being normal as it relates to the salary cap and the payroll, what is Fred VanVleet's value not only to the Raptors, but to other teams around the league? Because this is a summer in which not very many teams are going to have cap space, which could result in a lower contract number for VanVleet. But is he a guy that is just really good because he fits extremely well within what Toronto wants to do? He's a great all-around player. They don't ask him to do too much offensively, and that is what makes him a great player. And it's the Raptors are kind of moving towards this model of like, okay, you know, are they like the Spurs where like they have guys that play really well for them, but it's not going to translate to other teams? And does that lower his value and ultimately his contract number? For me, I think he's one of the most interesting free agents of the entire offseason because I think Toronto loves him. They want to bring him back, but all it takes is one other team to love him more and offer him more money and he could potentially be gone. For me personally, if I'm in the Raptors position, I think somewhere around 3 years, $30 million, 3 years, $33 million, $10 to $11 million a year for the next couple of years, I think is more than fair for Fred VanVleet. I would be hesitant to pay over that for a guy that doesn't have like the star power that I'd be looking for when you get up towards those bigger contract numbers. Great complimentary option, and I think that would be a fair deal, especially given the climate of this offseason. And then as you move forward, the other guy that really interests me for this Toronto team and is starting to kind of blow up a little bit is OG Anunoby. He's a guy that has continued to develop throughout his career, and odds are he's going to continue to get better and better the longer that he stays in Toronto, and he's going to be eligible for an extension this offseason, and then he will officially be a restricted free agent in the summer of 2021, so they can either sign him to an extension now or just wait until restricted free agency and try and match an offer for him then. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see an extension for OG Anunoby this offseason, and I also wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere around the $10 million a year range, just like VanVleet. Now, if things go absolutely crazy for him in the postseason, maybe that number goes up, but let's just work with those for right now. I'm comfortable with those numbers for both of those players. You're starting to creep towards a number that I think is really critical here if you're the Raptors and you have this idea of getting a big-time free agent in the summer of 2021. And that's $80 million. With all the uncertainty around the salary cap situation, we know what it was projected to be before the quarantine, before the season being suspended, before the loss of revenue that's associated with that. We knew what the salary cap was supposed to be for the summer of 2021, but we have no idea what it's going to be now. And for me, if I want to feel comfortable that I'm absolutely, barring anything crazy drastic, going to be able to sign a free agent in the summer of 2021, I don't want to be above $80 million committed in payroll for the summer of 2021. So if you're accounting for 10 for VanVleet, 10 for Anunoby, and then you're going from there, you're starting to creep closer and closer to that $80 million mark without accounting for Terrence Davis, Ibaka, Gasol, and then Kyle Lowry as well. So what that means is you're going to have to start making some decisions. And for me, I love the game of Terrence Davis. I would really want to bring him back. And I don't think that the Gasol or Ibaka thing would be all that expensive, especially if we're talking about the summer of 2021, which is another full season from now. I don't really feel like they're a big part of the calculation. They might even be retired by then. The big question mark here is the Kyle Lowry thing. And are you willing to give up on, or move on from OG Anunoby and bring back Kyle Lowry on like a 2-year, $40 million deal this offseason, still have a max contract slot in the summer of 2021? Or are you going to prioritize bringing back OG and Terrence Davis and being under that $80 million mark and still being able to sign that max free agent? And I feel like that's really what this comes down to, is they're going to have to kind of pick and choose and do some math and some calculations on what they think is the best value for them, because they're not going to be able to bring all of these guys back and have max contract space in the summer of 2021. So as well as things are going right now for Toronto, they have to make some decisions, partially because they've developed their players so well that it's not going to be possible for them to keep them all and have contract space. Now, if it was 100% up to me, here's what I would do. I would prioritize bringing back VanVleet and Anunoby first and not worry too much about Ibaka, Gasol, or Lowry, and I would keep in the back of my mind that Terrence Davis is kind of an added bonus that I would really love to have. And I understand that it would be tough to move on from Kyle Lowry, but at a certain point, you got to start to move on from older players. And if we're talking about more than $20 million a year for Kyle Lowry on any kind of, 2-year deal, that's a little bit rich for me, given the situation that Toronto's in and given how well positioned I feel like they are to bring in a max free agent in the summer of 2021. So for me, my plan would be to target about a $10 million a year range for both OG and VanVleet respectively, then move forward with that see if maybe you can bring back Terrence Davis or Ibaka or Gasol on some cheaper deals, and then go into the summer of 2021 with at most $80 million in payroll, have that max contract slot. And if the free agency thing doesn't work out, maybe Lowry wants to come back, I don't know. But regardless, I would feel comfortable moving on from Kyle Lowry, knowing everything that he means to this franchise. I think at a certain point, you have to cut your losses and you have to understand that there's a future to be had here with this group, with Siakam, with OG, with VanVleet, with whoever they bring in free agency. And ultimately, Kyle Lowry is just not going to be a part of that for very much longer. But at the end of the day, it's an incredibly interesting situation. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say in terms of what you would do here if you were the Raptors. And the other wrinkle in this is a trade is always possible as well. Maybe they move Kyle Lowry on an expiring contract before that summer rolls around. Maybe there's a move for a star before this. You never really know in the NBA. You can't project these things too far out. But just where I'm at right now, as of this moment, this is the direction that I would go in if I was Toronto, and I can't stress enough how interesting and how important of an offseason this is going to be for them, as well as in 2021. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.